Maybe I'm not equal to the task, a Thanksgiving reflection by Silvia Zapata, political scientist and SAF executive director, on doubt, deadlines, and touching bottom. But I don't believe I'm equal to the task, croons Ty Herndon in his 1999 release, I Can't Do It All. While Ty was singing about losing out on romantic love, that phrase, along with all its accompanying lyrics, made me think about how I felt that verse in my soul and how I have often thought, maybe I am just not equal to the task. Maybe the fear and anxiety that has me staring down the calendar and the clock with my mind racing and my hands frozen until just the right time triggers frenzied movement and submissions at 11:59 p.m. for a midnight deadline means I am not as competent and composed as I think I am. As I sit with the thought and the shame of not meeting everyone nor my own expectations, I sink into despair, into frustration, and into self pity. But my feet always touch the bottom. The bottom is my family history and my family's unwavering belief in me and my promise. On love, loyalty, and the life I had to rebuild. When people say there are things money can't buy, I am sure one of the things they must be referring to is the love and loyalty of a family who sees you grow, struggle, stumble, fall flat on your face, hold out a hand to help you get back up, and to quote another favorite artist, Cardi B, seeing you get knocked down 9 times, still get up 10. To be honest, I wasn't sure being SAF's executive director was a good idea for me at the time. I was going through a divorce after a 21-year relationship that began the summer of my SAF internship when I was only 19. At the same time, we were fixing up our joint home to put it up for sale. And because I had no local family, selling also meant becoming a solo home buyer. Add to that raising 2 teenagers, moving them 1 county over to start a new school system, and learning to co-parent was not the breeze it may seem. Finally, for some odd reason, maybe to spice it up, I started going to graduate school online at UNC Chapel Hill to work on my master's in public health leadership just weeks before starting at SAF. This is farm worker justice. You might be thinking, Sylvia, what does this have to do with farm worker justice or Thanksgiving? Or maybe TMI, prima, sis, bruh, cuh. It has everything to do with farm worker justice and Thanksgiving. Farm worker justice includes providing spaces and places for farm workers and their families to grow and prosper. Growing and prospering aren't pain free. Sure, I could tell you about how I won an honorable mention in a HEP camp writing contest last year for one of my poems, or the panels and rallies I've been invited to speak. But what I want to uplift for you today is celebrating the advances and gains. You do not get a certificate nor a ceremony for experiencing. On changing and taking charge of my own narrative. Only a year prior to working at SAF, I started therapy and began the hard work of reflection, repositioning, and redirecting my own story. I started to forgive myself and others for harm caused and for being bitter about my life not turning out exactly how I imagined. One of the wake up calls for me was my son, then about 13, who muttered, "I am such an idiot," over making a mistake. It made me stop in my tracks because I know his father and I never talk to him that way nor call him those type of names. So where did he get it? Then I made a mistake when taking my children out of school for a dentist appointment, only to arrive and find out it was happening the next day and they could not fit them in early to make up for my calendar error. I called myself an idiot and said I felt so dumb for taking my kids out of school, driving across town, taking time off work, then returning them back to school with not even a doctor's note to excuse the school time lost. The entire drive, I kept circling back to it. Even as I got distracted by traffic, I would gripe under my breath in frustration for the gravity of my error. It was at that moment that I realized my son heard me talk to myself that way. I did not even have to talk to him like that for him to mirror that behavior and self-chastising for making a simple error any busy parent would make. On self-work and Shakira. Self-awareness and self-forgiveness aren't something you even really get to truly achieve because you don't ever arrive. Instead, it is constant labor. In this Shakira classic, Inevitable, she says, "Siempre supe que es mejor cuando hay que hablar de dos, empezar por uno mismo." Or, "I've always known it is best when talking about two people to start with oneself." Self-awareness can be painful, but it is something we must allow ourselves to contemplate should we want to be in authentic, loving, and supportive relationships with other people. This is a dance we get to do where we must strap on those folklorico white dancing heels, no matter how tired we are, if we are interested in reaching that ephemeral self-love, which is at times a place, a feeling, a moment, and a struggle. On being seen then and now. One of the most painful things I have had to endure in my life, aside from outright rejection or abuse, was the people closest to me not seeing me. I guess deep down, maybe not so deep, I am still that kid with a bowl haircut that went perfectly with the nickname Goat, who would run circles around the house while I waited my turn to hit the piñata at a family party. Afterwards, I was ridiculed for the level of my energy, which was captured on video. Both and, not either or. I don't know if humanity has ever been so painfully aware of our past and present selves at the same time, with reminders at our fingertips that we are both ain't shit and everything. It is a privilege for me to have this time, information, relationships to grapple with this concept. But it comes after exhausting the dead ends of shame and self-loathing. I can forgive myself for not being supportive enough of my friends and family when they needed me, and not asking them how they wanted me to show up for them. I can ask forgiveness for my mistakes, which is a thing I never used to do because I was afraid if I admitted to the world that I made one more mistake, then all the naysayers would be right, and my ego could not bear that. Through therapy, research, friendships, other kinds of relationships, and constant communication, I have taken steps to ask for forgiveness. With a racing heart at times, it feels if, as if I am stepping onto a sheet of ice, and depending on the audience, my steps will either be received by the permafrost of supportive accountability and equal introspection, or the quickly crackling thin ice that sees me plummet into frigid stares and sub-zero hearts with only my first step of venturing out. On neurodivergent self-acceptance and worthiness. Even writing this piece, I know the metaphors and stories are supposed to be tied to a general theme, but that is so neurotypical. I have attention deficit disorder. I have come to terms that it doesn't matter what I throw at it. I must accept that some tasks will continue to be a constant struggle for me. And that is okay. I don't have to be anything to be worthy of love and respect. I deserve that simply for existing. And you do too. On boundaries and protecting your own heart. While I despise, with a passion, the narrative that how others treat us is our fault because we allow it, I must admit there is a component of respecting our own boundaries that is true of that notion. First, you must know your own boundaries and what you need to feel safe and protected, to value your own self. I am still working on that. On growth, gratitude, and the wisdom of living through it. Which brings me to now. This Thanksgiving, I am grateful for the wisdom my years on this earth have given me to know I am great even when I struggle, and that I may never have it all together enough for some people. I want to gently and lovingly call you in to give yourself credit for everything you have achieved, especially if your ancestors couldn't have even fathomed of being in the space you are in to be able to do what you do and be how and who you are now. Thanksgiving is usually a time to be grateful for the contribution of others in our lives, and we should still do that. But when it comes to showing external gratitude, we must first be able to notice those things in ourselves. On leadership, legacy, and why your support matters. I just closed out my 3rd year as SAF Executive Director. Still the first Mexican-American Latina farm worker, migrant kid, first generation college graduate to be the Executive Director at SAF. But I need your help. I don't know if y'all realize this, but Melinda was ED for 28 years. You do anything for 28 years, you're going to be great at it. And with Melinda being an Aquarius, she exceeded even that. Now, there's me. And 3 years in, I am here to report that despite your doe-eyed hope, in me, I still have not been able to raise as much money as she did. This isn't a competition between Melinda and I, but a reminder to all SAF supporters that we need you. Still. During my tenure, we have been at a deficit for the past 2 years. Even though I have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, that doesn't mean those dollars are received all at once. Most are multi-year grants that divide that amount into smaller portions. This is where you come in. This December, many of you will receive a letter, a postcard, or see a social media message asking you to donate to SAF. I am asking you not only to donate to this campaign, but to invite new supporters. On telling the truth, even when it's hard. Closing out this Thanksgiving reflection with a fundraiser ask may seem contrived, but it is also part of the story I am telling myself about what kind of a leader I am if I cannot communicate to our supporters that we cannot be at a deficit for a third year in a row without having to cut back on our programs next year. Yes, it is that critical. I am not sure how quickly anyone expects me to ramp up fundraising to catch up to the level of a 28-year veteran who could sell an oceanfront property in Arizona to anyone and who could then get you to subscribe to the newsletter afterwards. I know Melinda did not do it alone because she did it with your help and the work and dedication of countless Safistas. This is why I am excited about what is to come for SAF and the programming we plan to offer in the coming year. But we cannot do it without your support. Final thoughts of gratitude. Thank you for being here with us in this fight for this long. Thank you for caring about whether farm worker kids get to be revolutionaries in our own communities. Thank you to past and present SAF staff and board members for being the actors who carry out and guide us through living out our mission. Thank you to our partners for coming back to the table and inspiring our students to do more when they head home. Thank you to my son Adrian, my daughter Sarah Leah, my daughter Sadie, and my daughter's cat Cielo for supporting me and reminding me that if I have values, then I need to prove it with the way I show up. Happy Thanksgiving. I am grateful for you today.